everyone. Thank you for joining us. The Israeli military, actually its Air Force, retaliated in Gaza overnight, hitting 29 targets in retaliation to at least 41 rockets, actually, that have been fired from Gaza into the south of Israel yesterday evening. That was the largest number since Operation Pillar of Defense. The last military conflict between the Gaza Strip and Israel ended in November 2012. There have been no reports of casualties on the Israeli or Palestinian side. Now, the rocket barrage followed an IDF strike the day before against a rocket launching squad in Gaza that killed 3 Palestinian militants. As the southern border takes a turn for the worse, we are joined by Haaretz senior defense correspondent Amir Oren. Amir, good morning to you.
Morning,
and by Channel 10's diplomatic correspondent Moav Vardi. Moav, good morning to you.
Good morning, Yael.
Before anything else, let's go to the field, to I-24 News. Charles Biblazer, who is in the southern city, the Israeli southern city of Sderot, with the latest updates. Charles, good morning to you.
Good morning, Yael.
Okay, what do we know? First of all, what has happened overnight where you are, and what do we know about this latest attack from Gaza on the southern parts of Israel?
Well, overnight, basically, our understanding from our sources are that 2 rockets were fired from the Gaza Strip towards Israel, one of them actually landing within Israeli territory in an open field. There were no casualties. It was a relatively calm evening, although tense for the residents of the south, given the conflagration which erupted earlier in the day. It was a major escalation. It was, as you said in your opening, the biggest exchange of rocket fire and IDF retaliation since Operation Pillar of Defense in November 2012, the 8-day conflict with Hamas-ruled Gaza. So it was a serious escalation, and the people here are still tense. Although things are going on as normal, schools are open, it is, as they say, business as per usual.
No, definitely. And as you said, you are in Sderot, business as usual. What do we know about, information you might be getting from, military sources about just how many rockets were fired? As we mentioned, we've got some conflicting numbers. What do we know?
There have been conflicting numbers. The IDF, I received a message from them saying that 60 rockets had been found. It wasn't clear whether those 60 rockets had been found within Israeli territory exclusively. Islamic Jihad, which took responsibility for the attack, claimed that it had fired upwards of 90 rockets towards Israel, meaning that there is obviously a contradiction in numbers, which is generally the case when something like this happens. The bottom line is that there were dozens of rockets fired, and it was a serious escalation. Where it will lead, nobody knows. There is a good sign that no rockets have been fired as of yet this morning. Generally speaking, after an evening such as a conflict that broke out yesterday, if they were to continue doing so, they would do so at around 7, 8 in the morning as people are on their way to work and bringing children to school. So that is an indication that calm may be returning to the situation. Charles
Biblazer, I-24 News correspondent in the southern city of Sderot. Thank you for joining us. You'll be bringing updates throughout the day. Amir Oren, Haaretz, senior military correspondent. First of all, I'll play kind of devil's advocates. It's kind of bizarre that in a week that Israel captured so many rockets, we're seeing the largest barrage from Gaza being, launched at Israel. But this is not Hamas, is it?
This is not Hamas, and many residents in the southern part of Israel, meaning some 30 kilometers from Tel Aviv on down, even from Ashdod, carry smartphones such as this one, obviously, with what they call the red alert application, so that they get alerts even before or simultaneously with the sirens that go off. For the last 7 hours, this application has been quiet. The last time there was a red alert on people's smartphones, or obviously in their homes, was 7 hours ago. So this is not Hamas, because Hamas is the government in Gaza. It has many interests which it has to weigh. It was probably not the intended recipient of those rockets from Iran, but Hamas does not control or restrain Palestinian Islamic Jihad and other fractions, when they see fit, or when their masters, perhaps in Tehran, see fit, they launch rockets at Israel and mortar shells at Israeli soldiers patrolling the perimeter around Gaza.
Around Gaza. I want to touch on the military aspect shortly in a second as well, but Moav Vadi, Channel 10 diplomatic correspondent, Israeli Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman yesterday, in reaction to this attack, basically came out with one heck of a strong statement saying that the Gaza Strip actually should be completely taken over again by Israel. Is this something that we are looking at? I mean, is this something that's even in the game?
Cards?
Yes.
The answer is no. This is a long-standing position by Lieberman, that in any retaliation of Gaza, he would oppose, I would say, a limited operation, so-called, like Pillar of Defense, November 2012, which is just, to go in and then to go out. He thinks that whenever the IDF will retaliate, it should be a complete, thrown off the Hamas regime of Gaza and to establish a new regime there. But first of all, Prime Minister Netanyahu is opposing this point of view. Strategically.
Second, he has his foreign minister saying this, all over the broadcast.
Okay. We are very accustomed to this pattern where Foreign Minister Lieberman goes off with this kind of statement. We remember he went to the United Nations General Assembly and said that there is no Palestinian partner and no two-state solution available, while Prime Minister Netanyahu is negotiating one. But tactically, the Israeli leadership now does not want a conflict in large scale. Israeli leadership right now wants to retaliate hard, specifically, very pointed out at Islamic Jihad in Gaza. We should expect one kind of this retaliation in the coming hours of days, where you would see IDF, striking heavily Gaza Strip, Jihad Islamic, I would say, base or something like that. But you would not see another pillar of defense right now. Why? Because it's not in the interest of Israel now, and Hamas is out of the game. Just like Amir said, Hamas is control the situation. He can restrain Jihad Islamic if he wants. He does not do it by now, but it's not Hamas that's firing. Israel does not want
There's not a direct conflict then, but it's interesting what you say, and I'm glad Amir Oren, senior military correspondent for Arts, that you're here. Is this in the cards? Is Israel looking to attack even more? Meaning, do we think that the overnight 29 targets attack is not where it's done?
Israel's main interest lies in peace and quiet along its borders. It is accountable to the citizens and the residents there who want government support, who are clamoring for some help. And it is not in Israel's interest to reoccupy the Gaza Strip and take care of the 1.5 million refugees there. However,
what is the point of these? This is, and I'm playing devil's advocate, or being in layman's terms, that every 2 years, every several years, we're looking at exactly what Marv already said. We're looking at an incursion in and then out, and barrages of rockets, and several days of a conflict. Is there any military plan how to stop this?
There are many contingency plans, some of them large scale, occupying the entire Gaza Strip, which would be harmful to Israel's interests, even to the minds of the planners themselves. However, I would not be as benevolent as Moav was regarding Netanyahu's motives as opposed to the defense authorities, because there could come a time, even within a few weeks, when the negotiations with the Palestinian Authority turn positive. It doesn't look like that now. And then Netanyahu may have an interest in provoking a crisis in which Abu Mazen would have to show solidarity with his beleaguered brethren in Gaza in order to break off the negotiations.
Right.
So there could be an event where Netanyahu would join Lieberman in being very militant. One other point, it's ironic that Lieberman wants to give away part of Israeli territory in the so-called Wadi Ara Arab majority in the north while trying to reoccupy Gaza.
Yes, well, I think irony always goes to play, is a big word when it comes to anything that happens along the borders of Israel and its Palestinian neighbors. Thank you for joining me on this subject. You're staying with me for the next one. Now, the flare-up late yesterday between Gaza and Israel was happening just as British Prime Minister David Cameron was finishing an address at the Israeli parliament, his first visit in many, many, many weeks. A heavy barrage of at least 41 rockets, of course, slammed southern Israel. But as David Cameron was speaking, as we said, he was visiting Israel. Before we delve into the diplomatic effects of that visit, let's take a look at the following report about his visit.
After nearly 4 years in office, British Prime Minister David Cameron has finally arrived in Israel. Last month, his scheduled visit was postponed due to floods in the UK. This trip was likewise almost called off due to an Israeli Foreign Ministry work dispute that has affected logistical planning. Nevertheless, Cameron's first visit as Prime Minister got underway today in Jerusalem. Cameron is the third European leader to visit Israel in recent months, following French President Hollande and German Chancellor Merkel. He arrives at a tense time in EU-Israel relations amidst growing European threats to boycott Israeli settlements. Like his counterparts, Cameron seeks to add British support to American calls for a now-or-never deal on the Israeli-Palestinian peace process.
You know that I want peace and a two-state solution. You don't need lectures from me about how to get there. What I want to say is something different. What I want to say is this. Imagine what this land would be like if a two-state solution was actually achieved.
The core and highlight of Cameron's brief 24-hour visit was a keynote speech in which he stressed London's commitment to Israel's security. Speaking in the midst of a harsh internal dispute between the coalition and the opposition, Cameron's special session was full of provocations, but his speech wasn't disturbed, and he appealed directly to the Israeli public, stressing his country's support.
Delegitimizing the state of Israel is wrong, it is abhorrent, and together we will defeat it.
By contrast, the Israeli Prime Minister put the onus on the Palestinians, calling for their recognition of Israel as a Jewish state. And of course, focus was given to the Iranian nuclear negotiations.
We must stop Iran before it's too late. They cannot achieve the capability to produce and launch nuclear weapons.
Tomorrow, Cameron will head to the West Bank city of Bethlehem, where he will meet with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. While he has previously kept his distance from the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it appears Cameron feels the time has come to take a more active role.
There we go. And we are still joined in studio by Moav Vadi, Channel 10's diplomatic correspondent, Amir Oren of Haaretz, senior military correspondent as well. Moav, Cameron, first of all, how much of a player actually, because I think, you know, everybody's kind of pussyfooting around the subject, that he's not much of a big player when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian peace negotiations. In fact, it seems like he's trying to sort of shy away from that.
I think he's trying to be the nice guy for both sides. When he speaks at the Knesset or at the Prime Minister's office yesterday night, he says the right words that will be, good for the Israeli ears. And today in Bethlehem, you would see another music to the Palestinian ears. The European community wants to play a role. But there are only second player after the Americans. Now, Cameron, if you will notice what he said yesterday, he wants to emphasize what the benefits Israel will get in terms of if Israel would do peace. This is the EU strategy to say to Israel, the stick and the carrot. Yeah, we oppose settlements. You will face the danger of isolations and boycott, but you will benefit many interests. Israeli will benefit from a peace process. Now, you have to say one thing. Bibi Netanyahu tries to play the Iranian card whenever he goes with this ship of armed weapons.
The PR stunt, the whatnot. Yeah.
And, yesterday at the Prime Minister's office, I stood up and asked Mr. Cameron a question. And I said, Mr. Cameron, just the other day, Prime Minister Netanyahu said that the international community, that means you, play a double standard while, failing to condemn Iran, but then again condemn every new balcony, as Prime Minister Netanyahu said it, in East Jerusalem that the Israeli government issues, plans or advanced plans.
Right.
And then Cameron said, look, we are not opposing settlements because we want to harm Israel. We want to advance peace, and we're not negotiating with Iran because we want to make friends with them, but we want to, to eliminate the danger of nuclear weapons of Iran. So this is a strategy of the EU. We are not, making a fuss of this festival of this ship,
right,
because we know Iran is arming Hamas, but we want to negotiate in order to eliminate the danger of nuclear weapons.
Of nuclear weapons when it comes to that. Sadly, Amir Oren, we have no time left, so I apologize in advance, but on the Iranian issue, I will have you back and discuss that. So, when we get back, Turkish police fire water cannon and tear gas near Taksim Square in Istanbul during a protest triggered by the funeral of a teenage boy wounded in anti-government clashes last year. We'll tell you all about it. First, though, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. Joining us, I-24 News Morning Edition. Behind me, the end of the world. Yes, as you can see. And as it is the end of the world, it is the time to say hello and good morning to Tony Grant with the press review.
Yeah, thank you. It's almost like David Cameron from the UK brought the British weather with him.
How very true.
Yeah.
My God.
And
yeah, they brought in the British rain.
The British gloom. Actually, I took this headline from the Times of London before things were starting to escalate this morning in Gaza, but I'm going to bring it to everyone's attention anyway, because David Cameron has waded into the kosher food debate by saying that he's defended kosher food on his first Israel visit.
And thank God for that.
Well, he's denounced the critics of the ritual religious slaughter of animals in the face of growing pressure to abandon that practice. It is controversial. And it's on many fronts.
I love that it's coming from a British Prime Minister.
Yeah.
I think that in itself is just one heck of a headline.
Yeah. So interesting, and that's what the Times of London picked up on first. I mean, of all the things he was talking about,
and
why not?
Are the British really the ones to criticize food, I ponder?
Well,
yes.
yeah, British food.
Blood sausages.
That's a whole topic unto itself.
Yes.
Bloomberg
yes.
has this headline, which is, let's just say, missing Malaysian jetliner confuses world that's online 24/7.
You think?
And we know this, but by the same token, it is kind of a headline worthy because people are so used to quick time updates, real time tweeted. And here you've got a huge thing going on and no one really has a solid clue, and it's confounding the media.
I think it's been almost
Today's
6
the
days.
sixth day that without any real substantive answers, just a lot of conjecture and concern.
Unbelievable.
And so the lack of headlines is making headlines.
Is making the headlines.
Yeah.
My God, yes. The need to feel airtime. Yes.
Yeah. And speaking of something that is sort of off the radar, but also on the radar at the same time, Le Monde has this headline, which is basically saying Russia is preparing to annex Crimea. Now, they say it in French.
I love it. This is the morning of dubious headlines.
Yes.
Things you knew.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now this is a quite freighted headline, but basically, this has been echoed in some other newspapers by Chelsea Manning, formerly Bradley Manning.
Yes.
Part of one of her
yeah.
WikiLeaks in 2006 was a cable from the U.S. Embassy. Basically, Russia's plans to slowly stir dissent in the Crimea was known to the U.S. government for at least 7 years.
Nice.
Yes, so this was not so much
makes you wonder,
hidden.
with all that information, the United
What
States
was done with it?
Yeah, what is being done with it?
They were saying that pro-Russian, the cable was saying that pro-Russian forces were trying to stoke tensions in the Crimea because Russia was concerned about that Ukraine might want to join NATO. So they were working on the back burner to get things heated up. And they are heating up.
They have the information. The question is, what do they do with it?
Yes.
Okay.
Not too much.
Yeah.
Very quickly, the Wall Street Journal had a story about Turkey bracing for further clashes. This was a major protest in Istanbul yesterday, and we'll be getting to that later.
No, definitely touching on that in our next segment.
And the Telegraph from London has a very disturbing headline, but let's just say it. Auschwitz medal stamps used by Nazis for tattooing have been located at Auschwitz. This is a major find because for
is that the number tattoos? Or
yes, exactly. And this has been hailed by the Auschwitz Museum as being one of the most significant finds in years because it was thought that no original tattooing equipment was left that has survived the war. And of course, these are
No, they look awful.
It mirrors the weather. It's just awful. But as a historical relic, it's actually hugely significant. So I think they'll probably work to figure out how to display it in the proper way at the museum there. On a much lighter note, Carla Bruni.
Oh, God, yeah, that is light.
Yes. Light with a heavy undercurrent. She was giving a concert. She's a singer. This is former French President Sarkozy's... famous for, she's famous now for her song called Le Pingouin, which is French for the penguin,
I was going to say that,
which is considered to be a sort of reverse homage to François Hollande, kind of poking fun at François Hollande's physique.
To be French and in power, or my God, what are those people?
But the interesting thing about this concert at the Olympia, which is one of Paris's most famous concert halls, is that she has this one song called Quelqu'un m'a dit, which means somebody said. So she improvised by saying, now I'm going to sing Quelqu'un m'a dit qu'on nous écoute. Someone told me that they're listening to us. It's a reference to the fact that Sarkozy has had some leaked tapes. People were recording him. A judge was bugging him for alleged ties to Gaddafi. So all eyes and ears have been on her husband, and she's not happy about it.
She's not, but I love the fact that she's actually interlacing it into her repertoire.
Yes. It elicited a few boos because France is a divided society politically as ever. So she's causing a stir. It's probably good for record sales.
No, I'm sure. Can't you just go on stage and sing? My God.
She did.
She did.
Yeah,
she eventually had.
And she's very talented. But I think Sarkozy was in the audience too. Anyway.
Yeah. No,
very quickly, the Federal Aviation Administration in the United States is apparently losing its fleeting grip on drone regulation. Now, we've heard a lot about Amazon wanting to do drones for commercial delivery of books and whatnot.
Drones being the future of everything.
And without getting too much into the details of it, basically, you're having some federal issues here because the FAA regulates, airspace, airplanes. So they're running into some difficulties with how to tackle the growing or the imminent issue of how to regulate these things flying around in the sky.
And sky that will bring you your books, kill you.
And I wonder about the birds. I mean, who's regulating the birds? I don't know. It's a tangled web.
I think you're organizing a mass protest.
The birds are in a protest. We're disguised in Washington, D.C.
as we speak. Yeah. Okay.
One to watch.
Yes, that was it.
That's all for right now. Yeah.
Because you are the man. I love having you here. You'll be back in the next hour.
See you soon.
Thank you. And on to our next topic. Protesters clashed with police in Turkey as tens of thousands of people took to the streets to mourn a teenage boy who died from injuries he suffered during last year's anti-government protests. Now, riot police fired tear gas, water cannon at protesters in the capital Ankara, while in Istanbul, crowds shouting anti-government slogans lit a fire as they made their way to a cemetery for the burial of the 15-year-old kid, all signifying more of a mess for strongman Turkish Prime Minister Recep Erdogan and his eroding grip on the nation, or so it seems. For that, we are joined in studio by former Israeli ambassador to Turkey and former general director of the MFA, Alon Liel. Alon, thank you for being with us. And before anything else, let's take a look at the following report.
The protesters chant anti-government slogans and shout the teenager's name as they block roads leading to where the coffin of Berkin Elvan is placed. Signs on shop windows say stores will remain shut for 2 days, while traders sell black and white flags bearing Berkin's face. Elvan became caught up in Istanbul's street battles between protesters and police last June 16th. After slipping into a coma, he became a rallying point for government opponents.
He went to buy bread at the age of 14, and now his dead body is being brought back home. We do not want any incidents like this to happen in our country. People cannot be named as separatists just because they say what their human rights are.
Lots of children have been killed so far, and Berkin was the latest of them. We do not want anyone to be killed. No one here wants it, but they try to kill people. They try to block their democratic protest right.
Elvan's 269 days in a coma gripped the country, and he became a symbol of the violence employed by police to suppress the biggest protests against Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan's 11-year rule. The boy was the 6th person to die in violence during nationwide protests last May and June, which were sparked by the government's plan to bulldoze an Istanbul park. The renewed protests against the embattled prime minister seem likely to intensify before they get silenced, casting further doubt on Erdogan's re-election later this year.
And we are joined in studio by former Israeli ambassador to Turkey, Alon Liel. This is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because we've seen several demonstrations over the course of the last, I'd say, year or so, but this is a major escalation? Is this something Erdogan is looking at and finally being slightly concerned?
Not the demonstration itself,
but
the whole year is very different than the previous 11 ones that Erdogan had. He had a terrible year. The demonstrations are part of it because they're coming. These kind of demonstrations came from the secular part. The more annoying thing for him and worrying thing for him is a rift in the Islamic camp, and part of his supporters, his traditional supporters, in the last 11 years are demanding now to remove him on corruption accusations. It's coming now from several directions, not from this secular crowd that was always against him and demonstrated 10 months ago massively. So I don't think this demonstration is the change, but the whole record, very controversial record he had in the last year, and in 2 weeks we'll know how the public is seeing it because they're going to vote.
And that's what I want to touch on, because we're looking at these demonstrations. To me, that always spells, civil unrest to the point of no return. But clearly, he seems to have survived several of these civil unrests over and over and over again. People, though, in the international arena, and we've had other pundits in studio say that Erdogan is so strong because there is no alternative for him. But what is going to happen 2 weeks from now? First of all, it's elections, right?
It's municipal elections. But they're very political. In every city, you know who is Erdogan's candidate and who are the rivals. So if you want to protest, it's very easy to protest. You just do not vote for his candidate. Now, there is a national record, not only a city record, in Istanbul or Ankara and so on. Very important who the mayors there will be. But you can see the result nationally. Now, last elections, general elections, he got 49+% of the overall vote. Now he says if he will get 38.8, he will be happy. Now,
what are the projections then?
I didn't see national projections. I saw city projections that he's going to win in Istanbul and Ankara and going to lose Izmir, that he didn't have to begin with. Izmir was a city of the opposition. If we try to judge, there are polls and there is the crowd. You've seen this demonstration, but every city Erdogan is coming to, thousands and thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, people pour to this center of the city to support him. So the question is if the masses, the public, believe the accusations or not, because we have to separate between an ideological clash. Right. He is 11 years in an ideological clash, 11 and a half, and during all of it, there was an ideological clash, ongoing clash, and he went all the time to the public, including in specific referendums, to see if the public backs him, and they backed him. But now
that's interesting to me. How come that? I mean, and again, you've been to Turkey. You basically served in Turkey as the Israeli ambassador. Erdogan has proven, and there's no other way of saying it, over the course of the last several years that. He said some very controversial things. He's not necessarily doing Turkey any good, so to speak, in the international arena. What is his appeal still to the people of Turkey?
First of all, economics. He has a fantastic economic record in these 11 and a half years. Unbelievable growth, maybe second only to China. Average, although there was a world crisis in 2008, the average is about 6.5%, maybe 7% a year, which is unbelievable service to the Turkish nation. Also, part of it stemmed from the fact that there was political stability. He didn't even need a coalition in these 11 and a half years. When the country is stable, when politics is stable, investments come in and so on.
Right.
Now, the problem is that on top of the ideological battle that he won all along, there is a battle on him, on his personality. He has now a personal problem. There are personal accusations on corruption and also on his behavior. And this time, it's the first time that the public is being asked about him personally, not about his record. His record is still very reasonable, especially the economic record.
Okay, but
yes.
when it comes to economics, as you described, then people will always be happy if there's growth.
Yeah, also the part of the public that Erdogan always represented was the poorer part, the rural part of the population and so on. So he never had the backing of the most of the business community, the academicians and so on. So the public that he uplifted is being asked now, do you still trust him? And even there was evidence popping up that there was corruption, but they are being asked, can you live with it or not? And I think what's going to happen, I'm not sure at all, and I don't want to guess.
We're theorizing,
but
please.
we're theorizing that the result in the election will be, maybe he's a thief, but he's our thief. And let's better have our thief there than others.
He's our crook.
And this is I think what we are going to see probably. If he survives it, it's because they're still grateful. This half of Turkey, or 60% of the Turkish public, that was out of the game, completely out of the game during the Kemalist period of time, was brought into it, and they're still saying we should better be in with him than out without him.
And it seems like there's
it's a guess, because they always, in Turkey, that we had huge surprises in elections. So let's see.
Let's see what happens. And sadly, all the time we have. Alon Liel, thank you for being with us. When we get back from a single machine in Switzerland to a global network of computers, laptops, smartphones, and tablets, the World Wide Web, people, celebrates its 25th anniversary. We'll tell you all about it. First, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. Thank you for joining us. I-24 News Morning Edition, March 13th. It's March 13th. It is a Thursday. The world is ending behind me, which is again a reason to bring over Tony Grant to tell us, as the world is ending, what is the web telling us?
Well, the web is telling us that it's watching us. Yes, the NSA.
Because everybody else is.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. Listen to this. Glenn Greenwald, of course, Mr. Edward Snowden's emissary.
Yes.
Look at this headline from The Intercept, his new venture. How the NSA, that's the National Security Administration in the U.S., plans to infect millions of computers with malware. This is a biggie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're taking it to the next level, because now he's saying that not only has the NSA been basically spying on phone calls and various ways and everything, but now that they're planning to, according to leaked documents from Edward Snowden, to actually go out and...
they're not just listening, they're going to control us too.
Essentially, he's saying that in some cases the NSA has already masqueraded as fake Facebook servers to glean information using eavesdropping bases in the United Kingdom and Japan and Maryland. Big stuff.
No, big stuff that makes me actually want to retire from everything, move to some cabin in Virginia and put,
Well, Virginia's kind of close to the NSA headquarters.
It is close.
They'll be,
But the Unabomber makes sense right now. I never said that.
It's crazy stuff. But you know what? On a serious note, I think that this is a website which is kind of new, The Intercept.
Right.
And so I think we're going to be seeing big newspapers like the New York Times and Washington Post look to this and start doing some reporting of their own, because these are Snowden's leaks. He's the biggest leaker
No, ever. It just keeps coming.
Yes,
and
it's good, and it's a good thing that Glenn Greenwald is safely in Rio de Janeiro,
Rio de
because
Janeiro.
he's made no friends in Washington with this story.
Probably not going to come back
anytime soon.
Yes.
Have you seen this cover of Der Spiegel?
I missed the Spiegel this morning.
Oh, I don't think we have it up there, but we can go straight to Lindsay Lohan.
Let's go straight to Lindsay Lohan.
Lindsay Lohan. There is
Yes.
a list out there of 36 alleged hookups that Lindsay Lohan apparently scribbled during some night of partying at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and it's a partial list. 36 stars that Lindsay apparently had some romantic interlude with, including Zac Efron.
That's a very PC. Really? Yeah.
Justin Timberlake.
Oh, sorry, she's got a weird taste.
Could be a bit of a homewrecker here. I don't know what the timing is.
Yeah.
Heath Ledger.
Oh God, may he rest in peace.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Okay.
Colin Farrell.
And did she scribble those as what? These
were a scandalous list of lads with whom she dabbled in various ways.
I'm glad she's famous for something nowadays.
James Franco.
James Franco.
Yeah.
James Franco.
Yeah.
I can see James Franco.
Wilder Walderrama.
Wilder Walderrama, 70s
that 70s show.
I'm so good.
Yeah. So, and this is the year that Lindsay is finding spirituality. I mean, she's becoming a more spiritual person.
So she's dumping it all on paper.
Yeah,
to get
but in
rid
the
of
past, she was less spiritual and more something else. Now, this list was published by Us Magazine. We don't know if it's true yet, but I'm guessing that it sort of is.
I'm guessing it is. We're so scaring our guests in the studio.
We are.
So sorry. Yes.
Mary-Kate Olsen. Yes.
Of the famous twins, Full House.
Yeah, famous for her sort of vintage look. She has stepped out.
Oh my God, she's shorter than me.
There she is with Olivier Sarkozy, who's the French ex-president's half-brother.
And her
They're
boyfriend.
engaged.
I'm sorry, look at that picture.
There's a bit of a height difference.
I'm sorry, that's just wrong. I'm a small person myself.
I mean, we're talking. And the French aren't that big to begin with.
But Napoleon. That's on the verge of.
That's a little strange.
I'm thinking technically how this works, and I can't figure it out.
There are ways that they're going to make it work, and they appear to be happy, so they found that solution.
Yes.
But they were at a party for a Holy Terror Andy Warhol close-up, a book launch.
Can't you just lift her up for the picture? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Or make him kind of crouch.
Yeah.
But
wow.
they look. It's a nice couple.
Yes.
You know, opposites attract.
Honey,
opposite dimensions.
That just looks like a father and daughter thing. Yeah.
He's 44, she's 27.
And that doesn't matter.
Good luck to them both.
She's
petite.
She's tiny.
She's petite.
She's very tiny.
You know who's also tiny? In one way, Ronan Farrow.
Really?
Well, he's tiny in terms of the audience he's drawing to his new show. Yes.
I was thinking where you were leading with his size.
Well, listen, very professional. Okay. Ronan Farrow, he's awesome on Twitter, but he's apparently awful on television. Now, he's really snarky on Twitter, funny comments, often related to Woody Allen, who may or may not be his father.
We don't know.
But apparently he's failing to pull them in on his new show on MSNBC, and Variety, which of course is an industry magazine charting all this sort of thing, is trying to ask why. He's in the social media. He's amazing, but it's not translating into the TV sphere. And apparently, maybe the fact that he looks so much like Frank Sinatra is a distraction.
Maybe that, but there are some people in this business that we used to refer to as, he has the voice for print and the face for radio.
Wow, you should be writing for Variety.
Doesn't leave you much. Yes, there you go.
Interesting stuff. So anyway, Showbiz 411 talks about some Lady Gaga scandal.
Of course.
Okay, the Lady Gaga Foundation. I'm sorry, the Born This Way Foundation, which is Lady Gaga's foundation to empower youth and inspire bravery, has actually been spending more on publicity and legal fees than inspiring bravery and empowering youth.
Because
it might just be a sort of a tax shelter, is my guess. I mean, I love Lady Gaga, but apparently it's one of these celebrity sort of
charity
things.
I mean, of money. Nice.
Yeah, her mother's in charge.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nepotism. Anyone?
They spent $1.5 million on legal fees, PR, and a website, and only $348,000 on actual outreach to inspire youth.
And inspire. What was it? Inspire youth and.
Inspire youth and empower youth and inspire bravery.
And inspire bravery.
Ostensibly by buying more Lady Gaga music.
It is brave to hide your money.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's a little bit controversial in that department.
Over there. And
Naomi Campbell.
Yes.
She broke up with her billionaire Russian boyfriend. Good for her. And she says she wants children with or without a man. Now that's brave.
Yeah, with or without a man.
With or without a man.
Let us not forget it is doable these days.
It is.
Okay.
And she's feeling maternal. Obviously not with Vladimir Dorinin, the former Russian billionaire boyfriend of hers. Maybe he's off to Crimea. I don't know.
Who knows?
But she's 43. She was talking to Diane von Furstenberg.
And she's ready for it.
She's ready. And at 43...
Honey, for the sake of full disclosure, I'm sitting here pregnant at 42. There we go.
I mean, yeah, it's doable, so
more
power to Naomi.
we can do this. Amen.
Yeah.
Darling, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Do stay with us.
Okay.
Because we are hitting on the same subject.
Ah.
Okay, this was the web review, folks. And it is significant because we are basically celebrating today something very, very special. Actually, we're celebrating this week. This week marks the 25th birthday of the invention which has changed humanity forever, made Tony Grant sit here and tell me about what's going on the web. It created a new virtual world within a generation. We are talking, of course, about the internet, the World Wide Web. Its inventor, Sir Berners-Lee, has called on users worldwide yesterday, actually, as the celebrations were going on, to push for an internet bill of rights to keep it free and open for all, because that was the original aim of it. And to hear more about the significance of change the web helps transpire, we are happy to be joined in studio by Chief Editor of alexon.co.il, Dov Alfon.
Hey, good morning.
The man also known as Captain Internet.
I was, yeah.
Exactly,
yeah,
in the
yeah.
regions of the Middle East. Thank you for being here. Let's take a look at the following report.
25 years ago, Tim Berners-Lee worked at a physics lab in Geneva. By creating the World Wide Web, he changed the way people share information forever. His early draft proposal thrived to achieve what seemed impossible at the time, connecting people quickly and easily.
But there was no websites, so there was no HTTP, there was no HTML, there was no space or things you could click through. And it began because I was frustrated it didn't exist. The existing systems that you had to log on to they were all different, they were hard. I imagined a system where you could just click from one to the other. And that was so compelling that I decided that I wanted to build it.
This groundbreaking achievement of establishing a global network turned Berners-Lee into a living legend. The computer used by him is now presented at the Science Museum in London, where admirers and colleagues gather.
I believe that the next 25 years is going to be exciting. I often wish that I'd been born a bit later. I think people look back on this time at the start of an adventure that we really have no idea how it will play out. But I also believe we shouldn't sleepwalk into it.
The future of the web is indeed uncertain. Many believe it failed as the ultimate liberating invention and serves as an easy platform for privacy violations by both governments and commercial companies. Still, Berners-Lee chooses to reflect on the bright side.
I'm proud of the spirit of collaboration, which was the last 25 years. You know, it wasn't just me. I had the idea, right? I invented it. And then, in fact, it was taken up by all kinds of people over the world. I get an email from somebody saying, hey, Tim, I've set up a web server with a dinosaur exhibit on it or something. Or, hey, I've got an art exhibit. And these people, you know, I didn't know them. And they all collaborate together. We have the World Wide Web Consortium where people come, companies come. They're all trying to make the technology better, trying to make it a better basis for designing really cool websites. That spirit of international collaboration has been absolutely awesome for the last 25 years.
Berners-Lee continues his efforts to connect more people. Today, only 2 out of 5 people in the world log on the web. How many of them actually have something interesting to share remains debatable.
Dov Alfon, editor-in-chief of alexon.co.il. First of all, here I thought Al Gore invented the internet.
No, he hasn't.
Remember, there was a time,
did.
Exactly, there was a time when he was saying that he invented it. But, you know, first of all, it's, you know, it is, I think, the most defining invention of our time.
Certainly, it's everything. It's both the gold rush of our time, the invention of our time, the medium of our time. It defines us. This is the era of the internet. We live into it. It's our medium. We feel all right with it. People born with it can't imagine a world where there was no web.
I mean, you and I remember a world without it.
You don't, but I do.
Oh, okay. Trust me, I do.
Yeah.
And I want to ask into that respect, the one thing that was not in the piece was the fact that Sir Berners-Lee, who just fits the part, he looks like the man who would invent the World Wide Web, doesn't he?
He's a son of mathematician and a computer scientist, very humble. You know, everybody's talking about a humbling experience. The guy invented the internet and then decided to give it for free to the world. He says, I didn't really invented it, I just wrote a paper and this kind of thing. It's really the right profile for it. And he's British, so it's all very...
But the idea behind it, as he said, and as you just said, which is very true, it was supposed to be this free tool. It was supposed to be this thing for the masses.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, because he yesterday came out and said that, the internet needs a Bill of Rights. It needs, it needs to be sort of kind of like a return to the people. What happened to it in the last course of the 25 years? Because it's becoming a little bit not for the people, isn't it?
Of course, when, I distinctively remember using the web in 1994 when it was all me and a student in California, and it felt so free and so almost an anarchic medium. And then suddenly it is very commercial. And it's very political, and it's subdued, and it has a discipline, and it's a bit frightening that it could run off.
Exactly, isn't it? I mean, from looking at Facebook and Google, and I mean, it's almost like what happened to the capitalist world in many ways.
But the print medium when it was invented was always everybody printed its own newspaper, movable type, and suddenly it was those big corporations, and then again suddenly there was underground newspapers and weeklies and alt weeklies. So I believe the internet will reborn from this kind of really a bit strange period.
It's strange period that it's going through, and really quickly, I mean, I want to touch also on the fact that the World Wide Web, it has demolished old media, didn't it? I mean, now everybody, from giving a voice to the people, now there's so many voices. Isn't it? I mean, is it just like almost too much information is disinformation?
Everybody deserves a voice, but I think not everybody deserves a megaphone. And suddenly, this is what happens. Suddenly, everybody can, the top columnists or Facebook users have exactly the same access to influence people. And so it is a bit strange to live in these times. It will change. But still, the potential is so great to change things now, to communicate, and even if you're in a really very, very strange place of the world somewhere, you have access to everything. And it is the major revolution of our time, so I wouldn't be too pessimistic about it today.
Right, and in terms of, because you're very right in terms of saying that everybody has a megaphone. I find it sometimes to be, almost hard to sift through all this information.
It is cacophony,
and figure out what is right and what is wrong, and that to me is the danger. Where do you see this heading? Because you've been very industrious in using the web. You're a journalist. You've got a website called alexandra.co.il, which it's a wonderful effort. Where do you think this, it's heading in the next several years, if we were to theorize?
Well, right now there are those closed gardens like Facebook that, if you search on Google something that appeared on Facebook, they won't let you have it because Facebook closed it. So it is kind of feudal, really, the feudal period of the internet. But there are no more dukes and no more kings in this world. And I believe that some powers, some alternative powers will come out, and in 25 years' time, I'm sure that Dr. Tim Berners-Lee will be looked upon as the greatest inventor of the 21st century.
That brought us, this access to all. And, in many ways, fascinating stuff. I'm also thinking, everything we put out is clearly being monitored by the NSA. But still, yes, then there's that too. Dovel Fon, thank you so much for being with us again. World Wide Web celebrating 25 years today. To me, this just spells I have Tony in the studio to tell me what's on it every single day. Thank you. And when we come back, we will go back in time to 2004, the day Bernie Madoff pleaded guilty in a case that exposed the largest Ponzi scheme in history. Luckily, and hopefully you guys didn't have money with this man. First, though, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. for staying with us. I-24 News Morning Edition, where you should be when the world is ending behind us. That will be the leading theme of today.
Is it ending?
Look at that. Come on.
It looks nice when it ends, though.
It does, right?
The end is beautiful.
The end is beautiful, as we know it. That, my ladies and gentlemen. Joined in studio is a sports magazine host, Jonathan Regge.
Morning.
I
Good
wanted
morning.
to finish the world with you.
Nice. What an honor. What an honor for me to... Did you bring the keys? Do we close it when
we close it?
Okay, good.
It's you and I.
Good. So I'm practicing already.
And before we close it, what do you have for me today?
Well, usually, we bring a lot of happy stuff because we're sports, but it's not always happy. There's a lot of problem in European football, but not only there, about racism. Racism in sports is a huge
thing.
Is a big issue. Sometimes, being a mirror of society, because that is what it's like. And before we talk about that, let's see the story we had in our sports show yesterday.
Let's take a look.
The age of the multicultural generation is gone. In 1998, France was united behind its national team, which won the World Cup that year. The multiracial team became a symbol for unity, which is now long forgotten. Football matches are often the place for racial slurs and attacks, as hooligans do not hesitate to insult the players while chanting in the stands. When regarding football racism, Italy is in the forefront, as black-skinned players are the first to suffer in the Serie A.
When I played football, there were spectators who used to make monkey noises. I used to say, don't stigmatize these people, they're not born racists. We have to ask the question why they became like that. Well, it's because of history and culture.
Italian midfielder Mario Balotelli is one player who frequently endures racism. Born in Palermo and coming from a Ghanaian descent, Balotelli is a regular target for fans who throw bananas at him during matches. Another example is Ivory Coast midfielder Yaya Toure, who was the victim of racist chants during a Champions League match between his team Manchester City and CSKA Moscow. The Euro 2012 was also marked by many incidents, as the Spanish, Russian and Croatian federations were fined by UEFA for racist activities by their fans. In France, the uneasiness is deep. Laurent Blanc, current PSG manager, created controversy in 2011. Blanc, then manager of the French national team, declared himself in favor of a limited number of multinational players in the squad. However, he quickly retracted his words.
I want to apologize for the comments I made at this meeting. It is true that the meeting went wrong, but I think the most important thing is to prepare well for the future.
Despite Blanc's apology, subsequent reactions have revealed deep fracture lines in French society.
This is racism, because on the French team, all you have is blacks and Arabs.
If you take away blacks and Arabs, the team will be finished.
The best players have always been blacks or Arabs, except Platini, Cantona, and those other guys.
For the football governing institutions, this is an unacceptable situation. UEFA President Michel Platini is one person who often denounces discriminatory attitudes.
Today, ladies and gentlemen, no discrimination, whether it's racial, cultural, religious, sexist, or homophobic, is outside the realm of evil.
UEFA has even set up an advertising campaign to fight against the phenomenon. Football superstars like Leo Messi, Frank Ribéry, and Cristiano Ronaldo have all responded to the call to stop the evil which is decaying the football world. Maybe campaigns like these will prevent ugly incidents in the future, but there's a long way to go before racism will be kicked out of football.
Joined by the sports magazine host Jonathan Regge of racism in sports, racism in football. I have to ask you, because isn't this actually such an integral part of the whole fan base?
It is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And that is why I think it will be, I don't want to say impossible, but nearly impossible to take it out. There are certain things in the stands that are just impossible. Either you take them out or you take the whole spectator atmosphere out. It's not a very nice thing that I'm saying, but it is the truth. Let's take a look at England, for example, with another problem. England had a huge hooliganism problem back in the 70s and the 80s. I have to commend England because they took it away. While taking it away, they destroyed the whole atmosphere of the English football. I'm sorry to say that. If you want to go to an English football game, you have to pay £70, 80 pounds, even 100 pounds for a ticket. That's just to get in, and there's no more standing stands.
So no standing stands, and certain components, and I don't know how other to put it in a way that will be PC, can no longer actually go to the games.
Exactly.
And beat each other
and you know
up.
what? About 60 or 70% of the population. And football it's the people's game. That's what it's called, the people's game. Well, in the Premier League, at least in the Premier League in England, it is not anymore. But is this better than the violence, the terrible violence that we've seen in the 80s? Absolutely yes.
Yeah.
Of course it is. But you lose things along the way. You want to take racism out of the stands? Maybe it's possible, but you'd have to take a big part of the atmosphere that comes with it.
And that begs the question. First of all, I mean, do you think that what are they trying to do to get racism out of? I mean, other than this campaign that we saw, right?
Campaign is. I'm not saying that it's not important. It is important, and it's nice. That by itself will not do. And we just started by saying, sports, especially football, being so popular, are just a mirror of society. This is far more than just a sporting thing, a football thing. If this is not done within the whole society, then nothing will be achieved. You can make a law saying that perhaps you can take people out in the stands for saying what they're trying to do here in Israel with the word Nazi, or with other words, with the N-word in America, for example. But then again, this is a part of culture, a part of society. If you don't do the civic work back in the civil society, it will proliferate, of course, to sports.
It makes you wonder.
That's how it works.
And essentially, it all came from going back in time. It's blood and gore for the masses, and that's what the masses want.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a horrible thing to say.
The masses come to pour out whatever they have in here,
guts,
whatever they have. You can tell people what to say. You can't tell people what to think.
Feel.
Those people are going to feel and think exactly the same.
What they want to
and
do.
sometimes a football pitch is a place to pour it out.
No, hey, listen,
pour it out.
I mean,
it's not a beautiful thing that I'm saying, but it is true.
I commend the honesty. Real quick, though, we have also coming up today
Champions League action. 4 games were played between Tuesday and Wednesday. As expected, Bayern Munich is through to the final 8. So is Barcelona. So is Paris Saint-Germain. All of them, they got very comfortable leads already in the first leg, and they got it again. This time also Atletico Madrid, the team that I like. Oh, yes.
We can't have Jonathan Raghav sitting here without saying Atletico Madrid.
Atletico Madrid. Here I said it twice. They won 4-1, by the way. They won 4-1 at home. After winning 1-0 away at Milan, they won 4-1 at home. Barcelona won 2-0 away at the Emirates, at the Etihad in Manchester, and they did it again in Barcelona. They won 2-1. Paris Saint-Germain is through, and Atletico Madrid is through. 4 teams already through to the final 8. 4 others will join them next week. Will be a very, very big event. Essentially, all the big teams, most of the big teams are already there in the final 8.
Something to look forward to, and definitely always on the sports show. And
all that on our show today, 7:40 Jerusalem time, 6:40 Central European time.
Plug away. Because the reason we have
I need to say that.
The reason Jonathan Raghav is here, so you can see more of him, as we said.
And the end of the world thing, which you said.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got, I think, about 10 more minutes. We'll close off.
Hold on.
Hold on
10
with
minutes
that.
And we're there.
We'll probably leave Yasmin K behind us, but before that, we'll just check what your last words are. And we are here, one of my favorite segments of the week, and that is a look back at time of what happened this week in history. Mm-hmm. Things you can use, of course, in social gatherings.
Of course.
Yeah, for people who are shallow and have nothing to talk about, like me. And so,
this is a very interesting week because it's the Ides of March. Yes. Ooh.
Yes, explain this. The Ides of March.
Exactly. Crashing waves in the background.
Yes.
So I want to start off with something pretty appropriate. This is Caesar's assassination.
That is so appropriate.
Very appropriate. So this was in 44 BC.
Yes.
So he was...
This week.
This week in history, did you know?
The internet was invented and Caesar was assassinated.
Caesar was assassinated. Are the two connected? Maybe.
Conspiracy.
I think we need like a whiteboard here and you need to write out like Julius Caesar.
If they're connected,
yes, exactly. So Caesar was warned by several people.
And there's footage.
Oh my God.
And we have it on film. Okay.
I was sure by 44 BC they should have color television.
Exactly.
Impressive.
Yeah, Hollywood always existed. Hollywood was there when Caesar was.
I think that was the scene when he was supposed to have said "Et tu, Brutus."
Et tu, Brutus.
Yes, which apparently was actually he said "You too, child." But he was surrounded by dozens of senators. Some people actually stabbed themselves trying to get at him. It was basically a frenzy of stabbing for poor Caesar. Only one of the stab wounds was actually fatal, though, one through the heart, according to the autopsy.
It only takes one.
It only takes one. He was also stabbed in the groin, which is just, you know.
Yeah, if you're already going to kill somebody, can you just make it quick?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was actually persuaded to go to the Senate that day by his good friend, so he fought Brutus, who was like, don't worry, you know. this Ides of March thing is nothing to it. Nothing
There's
to
a
it.
Judas in every century.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So poor Caesar.
This is so appropriate. And as I said, we'll be closing the world, Jonathan and I.
That's what you brought me here.
Close the world, yes. Before that, we'll assassinate
Julius
somebody.
Caesar with us.
Yasmin, don't be worried. Yeah, don't be worried.
So also this week, we've got Bernie Madoff pleaded guilty to the largest Ponzi scheme in history. He swindled investors out of, I think it's around, estimates vary, 50 to 65
ridiculous amount.
billion. Yeah,
billions.
Absolutely insane. And I mean, of course, several people, this impacted thousands of people, but people actually killed themselves over this. I mean, people lost lifetime investments. His son also killed himself as well.
I mean, it's the making of a Hallmark series. I mean, it's everything that from, it's Dallas meets, Dynasty.
Madoff the movie.
Madoff the movie.
Has there not been a Madoff?
There has been one. It wasn't
there
very
has.
good. Yeah, I think the director killed himself.
DVD.
But no, it was, but I actually know people who lost money.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like this. Yeah. But
it's like 7 degrees of
degrees of separation, and it wasn't my money, luckily. Yes.
So also this week, this was the famous murder of Kitty Genovese. She was murdered in Queens in New York. Now, this sparked a lot of... Yes, she was a woman who was attacked walking home. She was stabbed. Several people saw the attack.
Right.
Okay, she basically crawled into an alleyway, into a locked door by an alleyway, and the attacker returned 10 minutes later and stabbed her to death. Now,
and people saw this happening.
Yes, basically around 38 people were aware of the attack, but they saw different snippets of the attack. No one person saw the attack from start to finish. So this sparked a massive investigation in what was later termed the bystander effect. The fact that...
Or what made New York, New York.
Yeah, so again, like you say, I mean, people started criticising the apathy, the callousness of life in big cities. I mean, as it happened, there were, like I said before, people saw snippets of the attack, so there wasn't one person who saw the entire thing.
Yeah, but come on.
But it was that kind of thing of,
I would have saw the part when it was only a
do something.
Wound.
Yeah, somebody's going to do something, so I'm not going to do something,
Yeah.
And it's actually a lot of research was done into this so-called bystander effect, showing that the more people are witnessing an event, the least likely people are to actually intervene. Yeah, people are embarrassed. They don't know. They think, well, they're not doing anything. Why should I do something?
And then today in humanity, we have racism. It's entrenched in our souls, and the bystander effect.
And the bystander effect.
Yes, and that behind us. Okay. Ouch.
Yes. Ominous today.
And
also, with obviously a lot of coverage of this week. This was the Madrid train bombings, which was a decade ago. This week.
Ago?
Yeah, 2004.
That's already a decade ago. I covered that. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. So this is the morning rush hour series of bombs exploded on packed commuter trains, killing 191 people. If you remember, also the next year there were the London bombings on commuter trains.
7/7 exactly.
Exactly.
I think that it's 7/7 in London in 2005, and this was I think maybe the
major
one. After 9/11, right? It was the biggest one after 9/11. Right.
So large-scale horrific attacks in morning rush hour.
Makes you wonder. Oh yeah. Looking at the pictures from that time, 10 years already.
Yep, absolutely horrific.
Yeah, I'm so glad the war on terrorism has won. Yes.
Something a little bit lighter. Now, the Ides of March. So Paul McCartney's divorce was finalised from Heather Mills in 2008. Yay! Yeah, so basically she wanted...
Bizarre marriage.
This was this was pretty crazy. She wanted 125 million.
Can you blame her?
Yeah, she ended up getting something like 24 million pounds.
Oh,
okay. Now, in addition to the 24 million pounds, she was widely derided by the media because she got payments for Beatrice, their daughter's school fees, and he also gave her daughter £35,000 a year. And she said, I quote, "Beatrice is obviously meant to travel B class while her father travels A class." So I love
That's just
it.
bad parenthood.
24 million, but you know, the kid's only got 35,000 a year.
And she's traveling B class.
B class.
I think to us parents here around the table, I don't know, because I sort of stick my kid back in the cargo. Yeah.
He would stick me
back in the cargo. Yeah, poor Beatrice. Yeah.
So, I mean, things have been. Oh.
I know. Yeah. He's married again, hasn't he?
I don't know if he's married again. I know he's got a long-term girlfriend.
He's dating. Yeah.
We need to find this out. I'm going to be back next week. The first thing I'm going to say.
This week in history news. My God. How old is the man, I wonder?
He's in his 60s. I think he hit 64. You know, the famous When I'm 64.
Really?
He hit
He's
64 a few years ago.
Okay, so I think he's at somewhere in
relatively
the 70s.
recently.
Relatively recently it was when I'm
80.
64. Would you grow older with me? Obviously not Heather Mills. Okay. But that's depressing. Was that it?
That was the last piece. Yes, I mean, we can talk more about the alleged failings of former Beatle Paul McCartney.
No, but that's fine, because I'm now clinically depressed. As we said, this is the end of the world. You know everything you needed to know about Paul McCartney. Jonathan Regev and I will be finishing this off with the keys. You've got the keys.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Let's go close the ocean.
Yasmin, I think you're staying here because
I'm
you
going to stay
depressed
here.
us. Yeah. But that's it for us this morning, folks. Visit us on the web or on our Facebook page, I24 News. Don't forget to join us tomorrow morning, if the world's still here, to start your day, as you should be doing every single day.